Hey guys, welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a great question here today from Helen, and it's about relationships. So I'll just read her question. So Helen asked, my question is about a romantic situation. How do you deal with the painful feelings and thoughts that come from knowing your ex-lover is in a new relationship? Feelings of envy that can be incredibly painful when you can't help but imagine the connection they are experiencing that you once had with this person. And feelings of inadequacy as to why he didn't make a commitment to you but has no issue committing to her. My mind is wanting to make some sense out of this so I can learn from it and integrate lessons moving forward. So it's a great question, Helen. It's obviously something that I know everybody has probably been through and dealt with. And there's a few things in here I really want to pick out and talk to, because I think there's a lot that we can all see in this. So the first thing I want to say, and please, Helen, don't throw anything at your computer, or if you're watching this on your phone, don't ruin or break your phone over this. Just forgive me in advance. But I want to say painful feelings. So you say painful feelings that come from knowing your ex-lover is in a new relationship. How do you deal with them? Well, a huge piece of this is seeing that painful feelings don't come from knowing that your ex-lover is in a new relationship. Now, I promise, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be nitpicky. I'm not trying to just be a know-it-all and be really specific about this. But it's really important to see. I mean, you maybe have other ex-lovers who were in new relationships. I do. Everyone listening has ex-lovers who are in new relationships. And that alone doesn't create feelings of inadequacy and envy and the things that you talk about. You say it so clearly in here, and it's an easy thing to gloss over and kind of see in theory, but it's a really, really huge thing to actually see and get and know in a deep way. So you say it really clearly here. You say feelings of envy that can be incredibly painful when you can't help but imagine the connection they are experiencing, yada, yada, yada. So that's it, Helen. That's it right there. When our mind goes to imagining, oh, they're so happy together and he has no problem committing to her, but he had all these problems committing to me. And I'm sure, they had this wonderful connection. That's where we suffer. And it truly is our mind imagining this. Now, I don't want you to start trying to talk yourself out of that and thinking like, oh, okay, well, I guess maybe they don't have that great a connection, or, maybe it's not so easy for him to commit. No, it's not staying up in this mind level and telling a different story. It's seeing the really deep, profound truth in what you said here. You suffer when your mind goes off and imagines scenarios. And I don't even know, I know we say this is just how we use language. We say things like this, but I don't even know if we really truly get how accurate and exact that is. That is exactly why you're suffering, Helen. When your mind goes off and creates this big image of how wonderful they are together and what must have been wrong with you, you suffer. When that image looks real and it feels true, and there's just no way out of it, we suffer. But seeing that it's our mind going off and doing this process that's making us suffer. It is not this guy. It is not his new girlfriend. It is not the closeness they have. It cannot be. It is your mind going through a very human, normal process that every mind goes through. It makes stuff up. It paints pictures, it tells stories, it makes things up, and we feel all kinds of energy around that. And then we listen to the content of the stories and we take it on as true, and we say, this is why. It's because he's with her. It's because he didn't want me and he wanted her. That's why I'm suffering. But this is why it's so important to see it isn't that, and it can't be that, because when it looks like that, you're kind of stuck. He's going to be with her for as long as he's going to be with her. Even if they break up tomorrow, your mind will have some new reason to be upset about why he didn't want you. When it looks like the circumstances or that relationship or that person or whatever it is is making us feel the way we feel we're stuck. We're not really stuck, but we feel stuck. We feel very locked into that. When we can see that thought comes to us moment to moment, and it is very creative in a very evil way sometimes. It is not our friend all the time, you know. It tells these stories, it feels this pain, and it goes off. And the pain you feel, by the way, is just natural grieving. When something ends, we feel some energy, and it feels uncomfortable, and it feels like pain. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it's healing. It's like having a good cry. I mean, if you can let that energy move through you, it will heal you. And any lessons, like you say, that you need to learn, you're going to get them just by feeling that, just by being in life. So that energy and that grieving and the sadness and whatever you feel, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very temporary. But when your mind goes off then, feels this and says, oh, it's because of blah, 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 and paints this big, vivid image of your ex with a new person, that's going to suck. And that has nothing to do with your ex. It has nothing to do with the new person. It has only to do with the fact that your mind is so good. It's so smart and so creative. And consciousness brings our stories to life in such a real way. So we have this amazing experience of life. And sometimes it does it around pictures that we'd rather not see. But it's good to know, again, that it is just a natural, normal process of the human mind, and we're making it up. And for me, like, just staying out of the stories, not just for me, for everyone, really. I mean, being able to stay out of the content of it, so helpful. So helpful. Because again, if you get into the content, you're going to find yourself trying to talk yourself out of how you feel. You will find yourself saying, oh, well, maybe he wasn't the one for me anyway. There's more fish in the sea, or, you know, maybe they're not that happy. Like, it's a Band-Aid, if it's even a Band-Aid. It's more thinking. Your mind is kind of creating this, so then you don't want to go to your mind and say, give me a better story, and then think that that's going to help. It's about seeing that minds create stories, period, all the time. And every single time, see, our natural state is, and I'm not saying our only good state or our normal state or the preferred state or any of that, but just our default resting state is one of lightness and connection and feeling okay. So when you get hit with this heavy, tight, restrictive, painful experience that you have, this energy that feels like that, it is always only showing you one thing, and that is that your mind has now taken over and your mind is painting a story. And that's true if you're going through a breakup. It's true if you are in any area of life. I mean, all the time, I will just be, you know, looking at my business or my family or something and just kind of feel a heaviness come. And without ever getting into the content of, whoa, what am I thinking? And maybe that's not true and all of that kind of garbage. No, I mean, you can do that if it feels helpful, but no, I know by now, and this took time, but seeing heaviness 100% of the time shows me my mind has spun off into some story that is not me, it is not true, and it is not stable. So you just feel the heaviness and you know, oh, okay, mind's back at work creating something, my little mind, back at work creating something. And that's where it's like, oh, okay, I can just feel this then. Just let this feeling move through me because I know what's creating it. I don't need to go do anything. It means nothing about me. It means nothing about the relationship or the world or any of that. You mentioned my mind's wanting to make some sense out of this so I can learn from it and integrate lessons moving forward. And, you know, I just want to suggest that that's a big old trap. It looks like, oh, I need to figure this out. Or if I can think about it in a new way, like we're saying, then I'll feel better. Or I want to learn a lesson so this doesn't happen again. Like, that's all coming from a really active mind that's suffering. Lessons will show up for you, and they don't come from your mind. Again, your mind is the part creating all this suffering. Don't look to your mind to teach you the lesson. The lesson's going to come from a deeper place. So you don't have to think about this. And this is a huge thing I hear from so many people. I have to process this, or I want to look back on it, you know, and relive it so I can see how I can do it better next time. You don't need to do all that. You really don't. I mean, there are times when it'll occur to you to think back and consider something, and that's fine, but it's not your responsibility. It's not a job you have to do. We do not need to relive pain or dive into it or analyze it in any way in order to move through it or in order to learn something from it. Moving through and learning from, that's part of nature. That happens totally on its own. Look how much kids learn, and they're not out trying to learn lessons from all these things that happen to them in life. They're just living life. So life will take care of the lessons. You don't have to go into your little mind that's creating the pain, to try to get the lesson. So one more thing I just want to mention about this in general, something around relationships, because Helen, when I read this, I instantly thought of a time when I was in bed for several weeks, I think. I can't remember. This was a long time ago, over a very similar situation, breakup. Instantly, there was a new relationship, and my mind was spinning all the same stories that it sounds like yours is. Lots of inadequacy, lots of why, lots of vivid pictures that were just horrible to live through. And at that time, unfortunately, I didn't really realize how my mind just made stuff up. I really took those pictures as some kind of truth, and I was seeing what was happening, and it was torture. And one thing that was so helpful for me is that someone gave me the book A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And one thing, and I have no idea what's actually said, I haven't read the book since, it's been 20 some years, but one thing that I remember hearing, and again, this is just what I heard, I'm not even saying it's said like this in the book, but it was something along the lines of, what hurts us is not when somebody takes their love away. Because, see, we live in we feel our own internally generated experience. So when someone loves you, hates you, is indifferent to you, we can't actually feel that. We feel our own experience. So what this book said, or what I heard in the book, is what hurts us so much is not when somebody removes their love or takes their love away. It's when we shut our hearts down, when we close down, and we are caught up in imagining them being so happy and what's wrong with me and why and all of this kind of stuff. That's what hurts us. And we stop giving our love, because it's the most natural human thing in the world to just feel love, let it come through us, and extend it to everyone around us. That is natural. There is nothing hard about that. There's nothing that even needs to be done in that. It is just the natural state of human beings. Now, we are not in that state all the time, because we have this ability to think and get caught up in our thinking and identify with our thinking. So most of us just walking through life, we're thinking about what we have to do, and so we don't realize how wonderful the person next to us is in that moment. Or we're thinking, oh, well, they'd think I was weird if I smiled at them or hugged them or something. So we have all these ways of reining ourselves in, holding our love in here, not extending it out. And again, look at children, they don't. They don't care what people think. And so they just exude love in a way that adults typically don't. That is what's natural. So anyway, what I heard when I was in bed going through my breakup, similar thing, is, wow, what's hurting me, what has me feeling so horrible right now, is that I've quit loving him and I've quit loving her. I've hated her and I hated him. That's what hurt me. Not that he and she were doing whatever they were doing. Not even what my imagination was just going wherever it was going. What was hurting me is that because of where my imagination was going, I decided I hate them and they're not getting my love and no one else is. And, maybe it's not safe to give my love. And I put up this wall, and I could see that as such a truth for myself in that moment. And it helped me so much. The day after I heard that, I got out of bed for the first time in weeks, and I went to a class, and I was out in the world, and I'm not saying everything was perfect and I was over the whole thing instantly, but it really shifted something, and it just makes so much sense. And given what I know, Helen, you're kind of familiar with what I share and this understanding, given all this, it really does make so much sense that we can only feel our own experience. And when something happens and our mind reacts like, oh no, I wasn't good enough, and them, and why, and rejection, and inadequacy, and all of that kind of stuff, we shut our hearts down. So I'm not suggesting you need to go out and give the two of them a big hug, be the third wheel on their date or something. No, I'm just saying take a deep breath and let your heart open, because that's what's hurting you, and see that 100% of the heaviness and all of the stuff that you're feeling, that happens when your mind goes off and creates a story. So I hope it's helpful. I hope you're well, and I know you will be, because stuff will move through you. Just feel it. It's part of life, and hopefully something in this will be helpful to you and to everyone. So thanks so much for listening, everyone. And the next 2 Mondays are holidays, I believe. So we won't be back here live, but please do send your questions to AskAmy@thelittleschoolbigchange.com. And when we have a Monday that's not a holiday, I will be right back here answering your questions. So happy holidays to all of you. Happy New Year. And I look forward to being back here soon.